Mr. Goswami is a registered professional electrical engineer with a passion and commitment to promote, develop, and deploy renewable energy resources and the hydrogen economy. He is a volunteer advisor to the Ministry of Power, Government of India on renewable energy since 2014. Mr. Goswami is actively engaged in voluntary work to help the poor in dedication to his life, serving humanity and poor people. He is a founder and director of India Foundation for Children Education and Care. His website is www.ifcare.org. To eliminate poverty in India through the education of unprivileged children and elevate the standard of living of poor women through empowerment. Thank you.
Thank you for your very generous introduction. It is a special pleasure to be able to share about renewable energy and hydrogen economy. I've been working on renewable energy for over 20 years. It is my passion and commitment to promote, develop, and deploy renewable energy resources and the hydrogen economy to serve humanity. I have retired 3 times because they keep calling me back to develop and promote renewable energy and smart grid technologies at different departments of US government. My presentation today is going to be a helicopter view of renewable energy and a very brief description of hydrogen economy. And I will also share with you, hydrogen is a very special subject to me. I have worked for a long time. I'll share with you hydrogen, the future of energy, how hydrogen will provide us very unlimited resource of energy in the future. So let's get started. As you probably know, let me get the first slide up. Can you see the first slide? Can you see the first slide?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to see the slide? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. This presentation actually was made to the government of India back in November 3rd, 2014. And this was prepared for the Prime Minister, and I ended up presenting to the Minister of Power and also the Secretary of Power. As you know, the sun is the gold mine of green energy. Long ago, scientists calculated that an hour worth of sunlight bathing this planet held far more energy than human worldwide could use in 1 year. India is sun's most favored and blessed nation. It has 5,000 trillion kilowatt hour of solar energy that falls on our land. Indian subcontinental is also blessed with renewable energy because it has a sunshine of about 300 to 330 days every year. India could produce 1,000 gigawatt of solar energy on just 0.5% of its land. That's approximately 3 times the total current India's capacity. Renewable energy is the only technology that offers India the theoretical potential to surveil all its long-term power requirement. And renewable energy is the biggest new opportunity for wealth creation in rural India in our lifetime, maybe perhaps in the history of India. That is an extraordinary opportunity for rural India. As I mentioned to you, this is a presentation to bring a green energy revolution in India, and we chose this presentation on purpose where India was in 2014, where we are today, and how we can go forward in the future. So this and hydrogen economy, both this presentation and the hydrogen economy presentation was also made to IIT BHU on November 6th and 7th, 2012, 2 years before I made this presentation to the government of India. In 2012, we made the same presentation to young IIT engineering students in India. This also gives the opportunity and a challenge what you can do for India on renewable energy in the future. Now, most of the data presented here are from 2014. Keep that in mind. I will also show you how you can go forward and bring renewable energy in India and also make India 100% renewable by 2050. I have published a paper, it's online, and I will try to provide you some references and where you can find this paper, or I'll request Eshan or somebody to put on a website all the papers on hydrogen economy, how India can go 100% renewable by 2050. It's online in numerous magazines, you can find it. I will also share with you about something about hydrogen economy, how and why it has been blocked, totally blocked by the oil companies. Okay, so I'll give you some insight to that so you can see why hydrogen economy was not developed. Let me go back in a background information, give you some. Around 2003 or 2008, the world oil price went up to 140 and $150 billion a barrel. US panicked. President George Bush was a president and he was looking for an alternate to oil. What can we do to not pay the high price of oil? So scientists suggested him develop hydrogen economy. And he said in the State of the Union speech to the nation that let us develop hydrogen economy, we will do that. So he set up a task force to develop hydrogen economy. There are 27 US government offices, and he set up a meeting, a task force, where every member of the department is represented. And I was a part of the member representing US Department of Agriculture, that's USDA. We met every third Tuesday in the White House conference room to develop hydrogen economy. And it took about 2 years, and we finally developed this hydrogen economy plan for America and for the rest of the world. But mainly it was focused on America. At that time, I presented a paper that was in 2004, how to eliminate America's addiction to oil, because that's what George Bush was focusing on. That paper is available online, and also it was published in Fuel Cell magazine, and I'll be happy to provide that link. And this was about 17 years ago, this whole thing, hydrogen development. And most of you probably know who actor Arnold Schwarzenegger is. Back in 2003 to 2011, he was governor of California. He was very important person who developed hydrogen economy and hydrogen fuel cells, and he drove a hydrogen fuel cell car while he was a governor for 8 years in California. And California has developed many distribution refueling center for hydrogen in a car. So because of lack of refueling, we are not able to develop hydrogen economy. Let me give you one more example. There is a US interstate highway. It's called I-95. It's about 1,600 miles long. It runs all the way from Miami all the way to Connecticut, from south to north. And this highway was designated as hydrogen highway, but oil company killed it. They will never let it happen. So as to hydrogen economy is blocked by oil company, and let me give you one more example of this, why it is blocked. In the USA, we have a petroleum stations where we have 87 octane, 89 octane, and 91 octane, 3 different kind of fuel for different cars. The next to that, 91 octane has to be a hydrogen refueling station. And most of the these refueling stations in United States are owned by oil companies. Almost 70-80% of the refuel stations are owned by oil company. They will never let it happen, put that refueling station next to that 87, 89, and 91 octane. They did not allow to put the hydrogen as a refueling station. Unless you have a refueling station, you cannot develop hydrogen economy. There are many cars were produced about 18, 20 years ago, but you could not sell them because there were no refueling stations. One more example, there is a gentleman named K.R. Sridhar. He is called a fuel cell guru in America. He spent many years building technology for NASA that could sustain life on Mars. Now he's the CEO of called Bloom Energy. Remember this word, Bloom Energy. You can go online, search. He has many videos how hydrogen economy works. He has practical examples. He's trying to perfect a device that could improve life on Earth. His company has built fuel cells from small power plants all the way that can power anything from single home all the way to the whole cities, and including some main businesses. Most of the backup power supplied today to all the telephone companies and all the hospitals, they are supplied by Bloom Energy, and he builds all these small power plants that can supply a backup power. So look under Bloom Energy and you can find more information. In a summary, China, Australia, Japan, and Germany are trying to bring hydrogen economy back, but without mass-scale production of cars and hydrogen, it is just not possible. And US will not do it because oil company won't let them do it. And that is a fact. We will also talk about hydrogen, storage of energy, production of hydrogen, the method of producing hydrogen, and how liquid fuels can be produced from hydrogen. Okay. Now remember, whole sea is full of water, and water is simply H2O. So all the abundant hydrogen is available on planet. We will never run out of fuel because there's a whole water everywhere. Whole sea is full of water. We can convert that into hydrogen, okay, as a fuel in the future. So that will be up to the coming generation. When the need arrives, you'll use hydrogen, solar, and wind. These are God's free given resources to all of us. And please hold on to your question. I'll start my presentation. Hold on to your question until the end of this presentation. I will try to answer all your questions, and you can always email me or message me or find on Facebook. You can send me a message or email me any questions you have. Let's get started with the real presentation. This is a slide that I presented to the Ministry of Power in 2014. And this is the Minister of Power, Mr. Piyush Goyal. Most of you might know, I think I'm not sure he's a railway minister now. He's one of the best person who was able to develop renewable energy in India. This is Dr. Tarun Kapoor. He was a Secretary of Power in 2014. I met him and presented him the whole plan. And you can see he has a copy of the plan, and that's how India worked on this. Let's start with the purpose of that presentation that I made in 2014. The purpose of this plan was to develop a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, and a very long-term plan. The goal of here was to develop solar energy of 50,000 megawatt by 2020 and develop wind power of 20,000 megawatt by 2020. Now today is the 2020, and we'll see how India has progressed and reached to that point. And next is a 10-year plan. They are supposed to develop 100,000 megawatt from solar and 50,000 from wind power. India has made a tremendous progress on that. At that time, this is in 2014, challenges and issues that were facing India. I will go through this slide quickly because some of the cost data are back from 2014 and things have changed, but I will explain you how things have changed. So at that time, demand far exceeded the generation. Remote location, bringing electrical power was too expensive. Lack of O&M and existing infrastructure was very difficult. So idea was to develop solar energy standalone, and so we can provide all the rural areas and all the supply all the power. And there were no lack of regulation and technical standard at that time. These are the data from 2014 that I collected and showed that wind was 20,294 megawatt, solar was only about 2,200 megawatt, small hydro was 3,774 megawatt, and some biomass, biogas, and waste to power at that time. Now, as I mentioned to you, renewable energy is the only technology where India can benefit the most. India has a capacity to produce 1,000 gigawatt of solar power, as I mentioned before, on just 0.5% of the land. So we have unlimited potential in India because India is blessed with a lot of sunshine. As I said, we have 300 to 330 days of sunshine in different part of India. Now, case for, at that time, I made this case for renewable energy solution for India. Domestic coal supply was very limited. Foreign supply of hydrocarbon have impacted the country's energy security because we are giving the our resources away by buying oil, and renewable energy resources are not depleted. They are not non-polluting, and they do not cause any pollution, and they have no impact on the environment. This is the proposed action plan. These are the summary, and I'll go to each of these steps step by step. Let me just give you the highlight of the summary which I presented. My whole goal was to India to invest in a renewable energy and set a standard 20% of renewable energy by 2020. And I'll show you where India is today later. Okay? And deploy renewable energy, power purchase agreement, and feed-in tariff, PPA and FIT. I wanted India to develop power purchase agreement with the industry and with the customer and feed-in tariff. And I also want India to have an abundant 100 million solar rooftop and decentralize the energy. Right now, energy is supplied through the grid. I wanted to have a microgrid and small area form where they are not connected to the grid, so they can independently supply to all the needs and there are no massive power outages. Also, using at that time, there were different technologies, deploy large-scale solar generation, farms and cooperation. There was a photovoltaic technology, CSP and CPV technology, and to use all these technologies. And provide some incentive to create exceptional growth in renewable energy. I wanted them to phase out all the conventional renewable energy resources, like all the fossil fuel plants. Idea was to give birth to renewable energy revolution in India. And through microgrid, smart grid, all different steps are involved. We'll go to and talk to each of these steps in the new slides here. First step was to invest in the renewable energy and energy efficiency. 20% set a standard that 20% will be supplied by 2020, only by the renewable energy. And we had to create millions of new green jobs, which India has created and continue to create. The next action was, as I mentioned to you, PPA and FIT, power purchase agreement, feed-in tariff, and some other incentives, and establish partnership, collaborative, and human resources development. All different aspects of these were presented to develop the action plan. Decentralized energy. As I mentioned before, India should have a comprehensive, user-friendly rooftop solar policy. To this day, India has not successfully developed a rooftop policy, and it is there, but it's different in different states, and there should be incentive provided by the states and the central government both at the same time. And we should have a plan to at least build 100 million rooftop by 2020. I don't think they have achieved that. And a lot of their other examples are there. Solar cooperative, solar cities in California, and wind farm cooperative arms, they're all existing examples. These are some pictures of decentralized energy. Aggressively expand large-scale, utility-scale generation. This is happening in India today. They are using mostly CPV technology and PV technology, and actually we are developing very, very large-scale project. I'll give you those actual examples what is happening in India. And also utility scale farms, cooperative and farms, and these are some of the examples of different methods of producing farms. Develop favorable renewable energy policy and promote the exceptional growth of renewable energy. And we are to phase out all the coal, nuclear, petroleum products, as soon as possible. And many countries in the world are already doing that. Whole idea of this was to bring a green revolution in India, which is happening at a very large scale. You will be a part of that by bringing electrical vehicle, plug-in hybrid, like Teslas and Nissan Leaf. And we have to also have a time of the day pricing, solar power vehicle, and thousand and thousand. Let me give you one small example. Just about 20 years ago, we used to have a public call office, telephone calls. It's called PCOs. I'm sure you remember that. Just like those PCOs, we need those thousands and thousands of solar power charging stations all over in India, all over the road. Everywhere there should be charging station, just like we had a PCO. People should be able to bring their car and charge with electric power. And car range has up to 400, 450 mile already available in the market. 350 mile. Tesla is about 300. They have a two-size battery, 300, I think about 350, and there are some 400 normal. Regarding the charging of these cars, 15-minute charger is already available in the market, and 30 minutes, and they're now developing instant charging stations. And you can see the picture of some charging stations underneath. You park your car, go to a shopping center. These are some of the pictures of those charging stations that exist for the last 10, 15 years here in this country. This is a smart two-way grid, microgrid, and develop a large-scale manufacturing in India hub. Idea was to make India a solar hub, which we have not made it. We are still buying a huge amount of solar power, solar cells or these panels from China and some other countries, and India is making some, but not as many as we should be. This is some of the examples. Idea was to use all the renewable options and ways to power biofuels, accelerate, the bottom line was accelerate the renewable energy development investment in India. This was the action plan. And also develop research and development within academia, research institution, all the government facilities, private facility, and guide technology. Idea is to use our IITs and all the technologies, use these people's sharp brain to develop new product, new innovation. And I don't think India is successfully done that yet. They have not done that. We have a lot of capability in India using all these IIT and engineering colleges to develop new innovation, give them an incentive and partnership, but we are not able to do that in India yet. And working at that time, I proposed India to work toward a hydrogen economy and fuel cell cars, generating heat and electricity. And we can power all the electric car through hydrogen fuel cell and produce energy. And they will be only, hydrogen will be only produced from renewable energy only. That was the bottom line. Solar, wind, and whatever other renewable energy resources. That's how we produce hydrogen. As you can see, there's a picture of hydrogen fuel cell cars and the bus and the charging station on the right-hand side at the bottom. These are some other examples of hydrogen economy applications. There are fuel cell cars running everywhere, and there are buses, SUVs, planes, rockets. Also, we have to work towards storage of this because sun shines only in daytime. So we have to have a storage. So these are the different storage method of power that we use technologies to produce. So we have called grid battery storage, compressed air to gas energy storage, vehicle to grid home. When you park your car in a parking lot, you can connect to the grid. And if you have a fuel cell car, you could be producing electricity and feeding that power back to the grid when the car is parked and you are working in your office. That was the whole thought behind it. And vehicle to grid, that is the thought. And your car will be making money for you because you are parking and you are feeding the power back to the grid. So you are producing car when the car is standing. And imagine millions and millions of cars feeding the grid at the daytime when the peak power is required, like a noon time, a hot summer day, or when the industry is working. That's when the cars are parked and they can feed this power to the grid. So, and the peak power can be generated with the cars alone to the fuel cell car. So this was a pumped hydro fuel cell hydrogen-based power modules. And there's a thing called flywheel storage, superconducting magnetic storage, and supercapacitor. These are some different methods of storage of energy. Now, these are some of the cost comparison back in January 31st, 2014, when I collected the data. These are the levelized cost. These cost numbers have changed substantially. And as you can see, the solar and wind cost are mentioned here, and they are not relevant. So I'll give you what the today's cost is in my later slide. So these are old from 2014. Imagine 6 years ago, and these were the data. Here's the different costs: solar versus nuclear cost. The cost was compared and showed exactly how we can use solar and phase out the nuclear power, actually shown by practical example, and shows exactly what the data and the costs were at that time. Here's the cost comparison of coal versus solar, and how at that time, which we projected that around 2016-17, the power of solar will be cheaper than the solar of the coal power produced by the coal at that time. And I'll give you the current number. You'll be shocked how much price of solar has dropped and how the thermal power is very expensive in today, even in India today. I'll show you the cost in India later. As I say, why solar is the best option to meet India's energy needs. India receives about 5,000 trillion kilowatt hour per year, and solar radiation in India varies from 4 to 7 watt hour per square meter in India. Most part of India has 330 days of sunshine, as I mentioned before, and around 20 megawatt per square kilometer we can produce thermal using thermal generation, and 35 square kilometer using other method. As I said before, India could easily produce 1,000 gigawatt of solar power on 0.5% of the land. Back in 2014, India total capacity was about 210 gigawatt. Why solar was the best option? To decentralize the generation close to meet the peak demand. The reliability of solar and wind is over 25 years. The operational cost is very low. Domestic and freely available fuel resources, they are virtually free, and zero displacement of human being. When you put a dam or build a big tower or power line or the thing, you displace human being. By using solar, we don't have to displace anything. We are not polluting environment, no environmental impact. And most state tariffs at that time were already there, and we could use state tariff. Time to build a nuclear power plant is about 13 years. You can build a full solar power plant in less than 1 year. So that was a big advantage. This is something about Jawaharlal Nehru mission. I just will say in a few words. There was a way back a Jawaharlal Nehru mission was established. The goal of that mission was simply 20,000 megawatt by 2022. And I told the Minister of Power and all these people, why do you want to follow Jawaharlal Nehru mission at that time? You can only produce 20 gigawatt or 20,000 megawatt by 2022, when I can show you can produce more than 100,000 megawatt, okay, by in a short time, 10 times that amount. So that was the whole purpose of the presentation. These are some of the tariffs at that time in Delhi. I took this data from Z Media source. I'm not going to go over these. Here was the total summary of my recommendation. We have talked about 20% goal and bring the feed-in tariff, establish solar parks, efficient market-based financial mechanism, establish research and development, work with the universities. International partnership collaboration was one of the main themes, so we can accelerate the development of solar and wind technology in India. India has done it very, very successfully. HR development for solar revolution and a zero import duty on a capital equipment. That was the whole idea. I understand India has just imposed some duty, solar cell coming from China, and that is not in a good interest. It might be politically good interest for India, but it's not for a good interest in India to make meet our goals for solar energy in India. Now, here are some facts. Why renewable energy? As I said before, sun is the gold mine of green energy. It provides unlimited free energy. And I also mentioned to you, long ago, scientists calculated that an hour worth of sunlight bathing this planet had far more energy than human can use in 1 year. There are 7 countries already at a very near 100% renewable power in the world. Most of the world countries are running around 100% renewable by 2050. Most countries have made a projection that they can run their whole country 100% by 2050. I have prepared a plan given to India back in 2016, how India can go 100% renewable. I have that paper published in numerous magazines online, and I will try to, if there is a link available, I'll request Eshan or somebody to put that in all the papers on link. So you have the knowledge, you can read all that, how we can do that. And US said a cheap renewable energy will be delivered 90% clean by US by cutting the cost. This is a US goal. And New York is trying to make 70% renewable by 2030. India has set a goal of 40% by 2030 renewable, and they will easily meet that goal. I think they even might far exceed that, do it earlier than that. As I said, world can go 100% renewable by 2050. It's very possible. You'll be very close to it. The main focus of this is to have a distributed energy so we don't have a grid outages, so that the whole blackouts everywhere. Pollution, and we can easily reduce the pollution and climate change, reverse it by using renewable energy. This is the here. This is their latest new record set of low solar tariff, RS rupees 2.36 kilowatt hour set by India. It beat the previous goal of that was 2.44 back for 2 gigawatt options. They did that long time ago, okay, or I think last year. So the newest cheapest price for India, and that is a very, very competitive rate and very cheap rate. They can produce 2.36 rupees per kilowatt or per unit. Revolutionary changes that technology will bring. These are some of the bigger picture things that you all keep in mind, because you will be part of these solutions for this new revolution. Solar energy with storage. You will not have to pay any more electric bill. Like Tesla has a backup power, it's called Powerwall. Everybody will have a similar backup power in the house. You don't need a connection from the utility. You'll be able to supply your power in the night time. World can meet all power needs 10 times the present power generated needs just from solar alone. Just imagine, if we can extract the solar energy alone, forget about the wind and all the other resources, world can meet 10 times more than what the current need is for the energy in the world. Solar fuels. I wrote an article back in 2017, and that was how India can export sunshine around the world. Is bottling and exporting sunshine around the world. I have shared this plan with the Ministry of Power. It's available online and it's on News magazine also, as I said before. Now, what you do is here, you take sunshine and use the solar energy to produce hydrogen, and from hydrogen you can produce solar fuels, just like you have hydrocarbon fuels, petrol, diesel, all kind of fuels. Give you an example. Japan has signed a contract with Australia to provide these solar fuels. They are actually liquid fuels produced from solar power. And Australia has already started this, exporting solar fuels or exporting sunshine to Japan, because Japan does not have a sunshine. Australia has a sunshine just like India. So and I told Ministry of Power, if Australia can do it to Japan, sell this solar fuel, sunshine to Japan, why can't we do the same thing? We have abundant sunshine in India. Let us export that sunshine. Let us produce those hydrocarbon fuels and sell all over the world. And we have that abundant. The next one is how world can go 100% renewable by 2050. As I mentioned to you, this article back in 2017, I think. was presented to the government of India. It's available. An idea was to eliminate all the coal power plant and all the diesel cars and get rid of all the pollution in India. Solar and wind with storage can beat all the needs of the electric power, and we don't need any more nuclear power plants either. Now, in the future, self-driving cars are coming, self-driving buses are coming, taxis, airplane, and all use of artificial intelligence will change the world. In case you are interested in artificial intelligence, I wrote a paper like 2 years ago. It's published in a well-being journal and also in other magazines, how artificial intelligence will change this world. You can read that article, and it's on my Facebook page also in case you can find it. Flourishing with artificial intelligence. Drone will be fighting the wars, and Amazon will be delivering package through drones. Electric cars by 2030, that's India's goal, as I mentioned to you. India has set a goal. I don't know, I think they should be able to meet it, but India is too far behind right now producing electric cars. We have not advanced far enough yet, but we have a 10-year window. By 2030, India doesn't want to sell any petrol or diesel car. Whatever they are, they will slowly phase them out. That's the India's goal. Flying rocket instead of planes. Computer will be 1,000 times faster than human. I'm sure you heard about Watson. And there are other supercomputers. India has developed a supercomputer. So the computer will be much more faster. Artificial intelligence combination with this high-speed computer will change this world. The only negative effect of this whole artificial intelligence and all these things is that human jobs will be eliminated. We have to retrain those people for different jobs. For example, today 80 to 90% of the car made in the world are done by robots. And similarly, artificial intelligence, as it is introduced in the world and it comes in their practice, it will eliminate many, many jobs. And we have to retrain those people and keep that in mind. So global warming and climate change is already a serious problem in India. I go to Delhi. I go every year for my foundation work. And it's amazing that the acceptable level of the climate index is about 50. 100 is the maximum tolerable. And when I'm in Delhi in November sometime, most of the time I go to Diwali time, it's around 300 and 400. 2 years ago, I left India. 3 days after that, this index 50 is the acceptable good index. It went to 1,000. Can you imagine people breathing this air with 1,000 pollution index, where 50 is the acceptable? People are dying with asthma, different diseases. That is not acceptable. So if we adopt renewable energy and hydrogen economy, we can eliminate all the pollution. Right now, due to pandemic, you can see a lot of people in the northern part, India, they can see Himalayas and different mountains. It's all clear. There is no pollution. Other day, I saw some picture, gateway of India. You could see very clearly. On the other day, you cannot see because of pollution. Renewable energy in India today, total installed capacity is about 370 gigawatt. That was as of March 20th, March 2020. And 35.86% of India's installed electricity generation capacity is from renewable energy as of March 20th, March 2020. Installed renewable energy capacity breakdown of this is total about 86.75, solar is 34.4, and wind is 37.6, biomass 9.8, small hydro. So government has a plan to establish renewable energy of 500 gigawatt by 2050. 100% renewable energy across all sectors is possible in India by 2050. And that is the plan where you as a young engineers can work on it and make sure it happens. Here's a slide which I took from Bridge to India. They have done a cost comparison in the next 5 years. They're saying solar will be always about 50 cents cheaper than even wind. So this is a taken, and that the 60 gigawatt of in next 5 years, 60 gigawatt of renewable energy is coming, and out of that, solar will be about 50 cents cheaper. on the average compared to 50 paisa cheaper per kilowatt hour per unit as compared to wind. India to build 500 gigawatt renewable energy by 2028. 350 of that will be solar, 140 will be wind power, and 10 gigawatt will be hydro another. And India's, as I said before, India's goal is 40% of the power generation, electric generation, should be renewable by 2030. That can be easily achieved, where you people engineers have to play a great part in renewable energy, helping develop different technology, work on this, and achieve that goal. And India is far ahead of its goal, and actually is ahead of its goal to achieve these goals, and it's not difficult. And I want to see India go 100% renewable by 2040, not by 2050, or at least close to 100%, if not perfect 100%, because we take a long time to phase out all the coal power plants or nuclear power plants, or the existing cars, diesel cars, might take a longer. But it's achievable, very close to 100% by 2050. And 40% by 2030 is a very easily achievable goal for India. Here's a summary. Renewable is an abundant, ready to harness, a free source of, it's a non-polluting, and it's a clean alternative to fossil and nuclear. Solar power generation has changed as a reliable and alternative source of clean energy. PV market is growing almost 10 to 20%. Cost is also going down 10 to 20%. World is developing large-scale utility power plants. Renewable energy is in par. At that time, 2014, it was very close. In many countries, it was very fossil fuel and nuclear power. Renewable energy was very par. Right now, renewable energy is a lot cheaper in almost every part of the world, except maybe some islands like Hawaii, or where we have to transport the fuel. The cost is a little higher. And so renewable energy is a lot cheaper than fossil fuel in India today, and most part of the India, not all part, because some part of the coal and labor is cheap, so they are doing it. But most of the time, solar energy, you can see that 2 rupees and 23 paisa is cheaper than coal and nuclear today. It will create millions of jobs and boost India's energy economy. Here are some reference papers that I have published. There are over about 25 papers that are already online. Just type in my name, or you can find them on some of them on my Facebook page. There are different papers. As you can see, the bottom is Can India Go 100% Renewable by 2050? And that was presented to the government of India. By the way, I wrote also a plan for India, how to eliminate climate change and global warming action plan. And that's also available online or in my Facebook also, or you can send it to me, I can share with you. Here are some of the papers I mentioned here. This is the summary of different paper. This one was this was back in 2016, how concentrated solar power can meet India's future power needs. India's solar sunrise, can India go 100% renewable? This is the outage that happened in 2012. Hope most of you may remember, in Calcutta, whole eastern part of India was blacked out. So I provided at that time how India can use renewable energy and these solutions to eliminate all the massive power outages, grid outages in India. That was back in 2012. I wrote this paper and provided to some Indian magazine and published in India. Solar farming potential in India. Solar energy from the Rajasthan desert can meet India's power future needs. How to empower India with solar energy plans. This is a Life Positive magazine in India. They published back in 2014, June 2014. It's called Go Solar. So it was a very nicely article, and they wrote this article, published in Life magazine. This is, I want to share with you, a world's first solar highway. This highway is built with a material where when sun falls, cars are driving, but highway will produce electricity. So this is a summary of highway that was built in 2017. This 2 kilometer long is built in China. And this is connected to the grid, supplying the power to the grid. Here's another highway. And this is while you are driving, this green lane you are seeing on the left side, You can see the sign electric recharging lane. When you are driving the car, you can charge your car while you are driving the car. So this is the potential of solar energy. You drive your car, you charge your own car without even a charger while you are driving the car. This is already being done. It's already installed as a pilot project. This is India's world's largest solar park at Karnataka. Pravagada is now fully operational. And I understand last week Mr. Modi also inaugurated a 750 megawatt solar power plant in Madhya Pradesh someplace. I do not have the picture of that, but I'm sure you have read it and you already know that. But this is the largest solar park anywhere in the world. It's already inaugurated, fully operational in Karnataka. You can see the potential of solar power in India. Because of all the sunshine we have, we can mass produce and get rid of all the coal and nuclear power plants. This is the wind turbines in Jaisalmer. I just found a good picture I thought I'd share with you. In Rajasthan, Jaisalmer, and in Gujarat area, they have so much wind power. This is one picture of that example. This is the solar islands. You can use the sea and big ponds and all the things, and you can make the island and produce electricity while in the sea or in big ponds or lakes or wherever they are. And they are using some canal. They are putting in the existing canal, many canals in India, they have put a solar charging, hundreds of mile long canals, and they are producing electricity in India. So these are innovative ideas that you can take and do this. This presentation was also presented to US-India Trade Summit, Economic Summit back in 2012, May 23rd and 24th. I presented the same presentation, this renewable energy solution for India, to Indo-US Summit. So this is the part of the solar. Envision India powered entirely by renewable energy. And let me go switch to the hydrogen economy. This is the hydrogen economy, the future of energy, which I mentioned to you. This was presented on November 6th, IIT BHU. And I was invited to IIT BHU, so I presented this plan to them. I want you to read these words. This is a vision back in 1870. Jules Verne said, I believe that water will one day be employed as a fuel, that hydrogen and oxygen will constitute it, used singly or together, will furnish an inexhaustible source of heat and light of an intensity of which coal is not capable. So imagine this statement was made in 1870, that hydrogen is the ultimate source of fuel. And sea, as I said before, sea is full of water. We have water everywhere, and we can work on it and produce hydrogen economy. It's a vision back in 1870s. There are smart people who envisioned this thing. What is hydrogen economy? Hydrogen is a clean energy choice of hydrogen. It's a flexible, affordable, safe, domestically produced, used in all sectors of economy and in all regions of the country. Hydrogen is just a media of storage of energy and transportation. Hydrogen can be extracted from fossil fuel, including gasoline, diesel, natural gas, propane, coal as needed, or through electrolysis of water using electricity from conventional power plants. But the whole purpose of eliminating pollution is using hydrogen from renewable energy sources only, using water, electricity from solar, photovoltaic, and direct resources. And we can use from methane, gas fill, also from landfill, waste treatment, biomass. There are so many ways to produce hydrogen. This is a picture of a fuel cell. This was about 14 years ago. It simply is an anode and a cathode and electrolyte in the middle. And I'm sure you can read this online or you can understand what a fuel cell is. This is just showing a picture what a fuel cell is. These are different type of fuel cell, and they are called polymer and direct fuel cell, alkaline fuel cell, phosphoric acid fuel cell, molten carbonate, and solid oxide. These are different fuel cells. How is hydrogen produced? Reforming fossil fuels, electrolysis of water, high temperature electrolysis, and experimental and biological process. These are different methods of producing hydrogen. Just to give you a bigger picture of how hydrogen can be produced. The best way we want to produce is using renewable energy and through water. Advantage of hydrogen economy is that when it burns, it only produces water. Hydrogen is only water. Eliminate all the need of fossil fuel pollution, elimination of greenhouse gases, eliminate all the economic dependence and distribution production. Technology question, if you are learning to hydrogen economy, these are the questions you must ask. What is hydrogen economy? How does hydrogen come? Where is it come from? How is it transported? How can we transport it? How can we distribute it? How can we store it? What is the hydrogen? What are the issues with hydrogen? Hydrogen is very light, so it takes 4 times the density of other gases. How to transport it? Hydrogen, how we can produce hydrogen to use power the auto or cars? What are the different application of fuel cell technology? So these are some technical questions you must ask before you learn about hydrogen economy or fuel cells. This is a picture of a hydrogen fuel cell cars, and as pretty much explains, and on the bottom of that there's a layer of fuel cells, and the rest is just a fuel cell that produces electricity and you run the car. These are different already transportation modes. All automakers have models of fuel cell car produced, but they could not sell it because there were no refueling station. As I said before, oil companies have stopped putting a refueling station. So there are many models. 15-20 years ago they produced it, and they're still available. The best car was a Prius hydrogen car produced by Toyota, which Governor Schwarzenegger, he drove that car in California. Here are the hydrogen fuel cell buses running in North and South America. This is back in 2014 now, these slides, okay? Train, planes, boats, scooters, they're all available. This is a hydrogen refueling station looks like. And this was Honda's solar hydrogen station. And the car is called FCX Clarity car. That's the name of the car that they produced. This is a fuel cell SUV. Honda's fuel cell SUV is called Saitama, and this is the name. These are hydrogen buses in London. They have been running for a long time, but I am not sure if they're still running because hydrogen is not easily available. I am not sure right now it's running, but back in 2014, they were running these buses in many cities. This is a hydrogen fuel cell truck. This is a Boeing flies the first hydrogen fuel cell plane, and it flew at an altitude of 1,000 meters. And as you can see, this was just experimental. There are fuel cell technology aircraft. The fuel cell cannot replace the plane's jet engine, but all the auxiliary power used can be supplied from the fuel cell. This is an example of that Boeing air show. They showed this example in 2008, and they were using all the power generated by fuel cell in this plane. These are actually hydrogen powered, where they burn the hydrogen and use an aircraft. Hydrogen requires about 4 times the volume because it's lighter as a standard jet fuel, as kerosene example. Here's a fuel cell technology powered train that are running in, I think it was in Japan or China somewhere. They had a few, I think Japan. They are running this fuel cell trains. Here's a hydrogen powered fuel cell rocket. And I'm sure you know what a nanotechnology is. Nanotechnology further can be transfer efficient more electrons. And I wrote a paper back in 2000, I think it was 6 or 7 on nanotechnology. It's available online, and it describes in detail how nanotechnology can benefit hydrogen economy. Hydrogen, at that time in 2014, we envisioned hydrogen as the currency of the future. That was called hydrogen revolution. And roadmap to hydrogen economy was a very great vision, but somehow this vision was killed by the oil companies and it never happened. And hydrogen is supposed to be going forward one day when we run out of all the oil and petrol. Believe me, there will be plenty of hydrogen available, and we will be using this as a fuel of the future. This is one of the paper I was mentioned to you before. how India can export sunshine around the world, and this is available, and this describes all the method. And if you see the picture at the bottom, how it can transport actually liquid fuel, make a liquid fuel out of it, and transport and sell it to other part of the world. Here are some of the list of the papers that are available online. I can provide this link if it's possible. And hydrogen, the fuel of the future, eliminating America's addiction to oil, nanotechnology, the next bigger revolution, hydrogen economy, the future of energy. This was published in actually Well-Being Journal back in 2008. Here is this hydrogen economy, the future of energy. This was back in 2008. It was published. It's not available, but I can provide a copy to put it online because it was, you have to purchase this. So you don't have to purchase. I have the copy of this article. Here the hydrogen economy schematic, what it looks like when it's laid out. But again, this whole vision never came through. And because of oil companies, or because we cannot mass produce car and we cannot mass produce hydrogen at this time, because virtually oil companies control what will happen in this one. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the opportunity for sharing my knowledge. If you have any question, I'll be happy to answer those questions.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there are two questions from Auditro Ghosh.
Sure.
Is any government scheme to install rooftop load project in India, and what percentage of support from government? This is the first question.
Okay. Let me finish the first question, then you ask me second question.
Okay.
Government of India had over the year provided, I have not followed lately, but they keep changing the rules. At any one time back, there was 30% subsidies, and there was a 25% subsidies. Let me give you an example. Back 4 years ago, we did a big hospital in a city, got the name of the city. There's a big hospital, charitable hospital. Tata converted that into renewable energy. And we put all the solar rooftop, everything. And this gentleman, Dr. Sharma, has put a charitable eye hospital. And we converted that. At that time, government provided, I think it was 25% subsidy. But it took about 8 months to get that money back from the government. Imagine at that time, Mr. Piyush Goyal was the minister, and I know him personally, and it took a long time to get the money back. So I do not know all the regulations, what every state, some states also have subsidies. So personally, I do not know what the government is providing, because government keeps changing rules. So you have to investigate locally, or go online, Ministry of Power, Renewable Energy, it's called MNRE Renewable website. You can find all this information online. It should be available. But I have not kept up with what the government is doing, because government keeps changing rules. The Rajasthan government was providing about 5 years ago subsidies. I don't know what the subsidies now. I don't follow what the changes are. Sorry, I cannot answer your question, but you can find it online. It's available. Go ahead, next question.
Okay, thank you, sir. Next question: how net metering system works?
Okay, net metering system is very simple. Suppose I have installed suppose my need of in my American house is roughly about, let's say 5 kilowatt or less need. Okay, so I can install a 10 kilowatt system. Okay, and 5 kilowatt of that 5 kilowatt is my peak of my house, which I don't use all the time. If I turn everything on in my house, including refrigerator, air conditioning, all that. So if I decide to install 10 kilowatt, so I can be supplying continuous power. So net metering is a meter where power flows both ways. And there's a meter that registers. Suppose in daytime when there's a peak power, utility needs power because all the air conditioning is on and industry is on. So my house will be producing power. Okay, that will be feeding to the utility grid, to the utility lines. But in the night time, when my roof, I don't have a solar, I can have a storage and provide my house. But with net metering, what happened? Nighttime utility will provide that power, feed it from line to my house. Daytime I provide from my house through that metering to the grid or to the lines. So this is how net metering, when power flows both ways, and actually meters record how much power, net power I have supplied. Suppose I generated say 500 kilowatt and utility supplies me 200 kilowatt during the night time, so I have 300 kilowatt extra. They will pay me for that. That price is not 100%. It varies from state to state, because state utility commission or regulatory commission decide what the cost will be. It's just about 70 to 80%, 60%. But some places where utility need power badly, they don't want to go out and install big, huge power plants or generate. They will give you up to 90 or 100%. So net metering is simply power flowing both ways, whichever way you need it. As I gave you example, nighttime utility will supply me, and daytime when I'm generating all that power, I'll be supplying to the utility through the meter. That explains?
Okay, thank you, sir. Another question from Mr. Vishnu: how will hydrogen economy influence the smart grid?
Smart grid. First of all, the whole idea is to get rid of, unload the smart grid. Hydrogen economy is decentralized energy, whether it's electric cars or small power plants. Let's say you have a big building, huge building. It has a 1 megawatt capacity. You can generate a fuel cells, a industrial fuel cell that will supply backup power. In America, all the telephone company, all the big companies, they have a backup power with the fuel cells. They're already doing it using Bloom Energy. If you are interested, go online, read about Bloom Energy. I have a lot of videos I can share with you. In fact, I have a video from CBS News who highlighted beautifully how Bloom Energy is supplying power all over. These are small generating stations. They are compact. They don't pollute. Zero pollution. So what you have is like a big, instead of a small fuel cell, you have a big power plant. Now coming back to the grid, if you needed excess power, you can supply to the grid, but you don't have to. As I said before in my presentation, suppose you have an electric car. You want to feed it to the grid. There will be net metering, and you can park your car in the parking lot, put that plug back to that, it's supplied back to the grid. Excess power is all generated because car is sitting standstill. The car is making money for you. That was the concept in 2014 when this was developed, that your car sitting there will make money for you. You produce electricity through that fuel cell, put it back in the grid. So it will not impact any negatively. The grid is designed safely. There will be no negative impact. Does that answer your question?
Okay, thank you, sir. Sir, another question from Mr. Abhishek. It's a long question. Sir, when we intend to feed power from the solar panels to the grid, as in Tesla Power walls, do we maintain a phase difference between the inverter output and the supply grid, such that the inverter output leads the supply grid, or do we keep the inverter output voltage at a slightly higher voltage than that of the grid voltage, and both at the same phase?
There is some margin that within some percent, I forgot exactly what the datas are. You can look it up, and you can feed both ways without any disturbance. And if there is an extreme changes, variation, it automatically cuts off. These are solid state devices. Remember, solid state devices that determine the flow of power. The newer technologies are all solid state devices that regulates all the power going in and out. Okay. So this technology is already there in the market, and I forgot the exact. I had to go back and study and exactly how much voltage generated on which side, and those variations are there. I think 5-10% variation or some those exact. I don't know the exact numbers, but they are all well designed through solid state technology. There are no, and the automatic shut off happens if it exceeds that limit.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Professor Paul is there?
There is another question from
there is another question from Mustafa Usman. It is not clear for the bus, planes, and trains. He had just typed these words.
No. The question is, how is hydrogen stored for the bus, train, and planes?
Okay.
Uh,
Hydrogen is a specially designed, I forgot the name of the material. As I remember, hydrogen takes a lot more volume to create equal amount of energy. So there are heavily designed tanks. And if the buses running have a heavily thick designed tanks, and they are foolproof, safe proof, and they're already tested and they're working all over the world. Even in the car, hydrogen storage is there. If you can fill the hydrogen tank and fill. You have a fuel cell or you can fill the tank. There are two options. You have onboard fuel cells that continuously produce hydrogen and then have a storage with it. So all these are safely designed. There are materials available, but there is a limitation how much you can put, how many kilogram of hydrogen you can put in the tank. I thought it was 2 kilogram or something that take you, certain amount of distance. These are all data available online. You can do research.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Over to Professor Eshan Samanta.
Professor Panda, please, you are left with another question. Bikram Datta, last question. Please ask that.
Sure, go ahead.
Last one.
Where is it in the chat?
Yes, it is in the
window?
everyone section.
as hydrogen is very explosive, this question.
No, here I'm seeing the only officer's reply. Thank you, sir.
No. As hydrogen, the question is, as hydrogen is very explosive, what are the steps?
Let me explain the hydrogen expensive part. If we can, let me give you an example, and you will probably fully understand hydrogen is not expensive. Okay. If suppose I want to produce one electric car, I start from basic design. It might take me almost $1 million to put together that one electric car, including the battery, the research, development, all that. But if I can produce 100 million car, one car cost me $1 million to produce one electric car or hydrogen car. Okay, but if I can produce a 10 million or 20 million car, that car might cost me $10,000, $15,000 or $20,000. Okay, so it's the volume of production of cars or volume of production of hydrogen itself. Hydrogen production as a liquid fuel. Okay, hydrogen can be liquefied to transport it. Okay, so it's the volume of cars that you produce will determine the price. At the bottom line is this: hydrogen car mass produced will be almost half the price of any your conventional car. If I can produce the same number of electric cars or petrol or diesel cars, hydrogen will be almost 60% or 50% of the price what you are selling a car today, but you have to mass produce it. Hydrogen is not expensive. In 2014, we envisioned, when we're developing hydrogen economy, that fuel cell is so cheap, that fuel cell goes in the car was so darn cheap that you can produce the car, you throw away all the other parts, okay? Nothing else is needed. Just like electric cars, all you have is a motor running. You have a battery and an electric motor. Rest is all the gadgets and things. But right now, lithium batteries are very expensive. So fuel cell is not expensive. Fuel cell for a fuel cell hydrogen car is very cheap. It can be mass produced at a cheap price. So the net cost of the fuel cell car will be almost 50 to 60% less. 40 to 50% less than an equivalent car if we can mass produce them at the same scale. Is that clear? But you have to mass produce it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. But Bikram Datta, I think, please.
In 2000, we analyzed all these things. We looked at
Bikram, please unmute your mic.
Hello.
Hello, Bikram sir. Can you?
Does that answer your question? Hydrogen is not expensive. Hydrogen expensive.
No, sir. Actually, that term is explosive. He asked about explosive.
Yes, it is explosive in the sense That
So
is
what
this.
type?
No, hold on. There is another question which you did not ask. Let me ask you that question and answer it. Suppose there is an accident. You are driving a hydrogen car. You have a hydrogen tank. Okay? You have a hydrogen tank. You are an accident. This question was raised in 2014 when we were developing hydrogen economy. Okay? Will there be an explosion of hydrogen? No. Hydrogen does not burn there. Petrol burns, diesel burns. Hydrogen does not burn. It will simply evaporate in the air. Period. There is no explosion. Because a chemical process, you are using a chemical process in the fuel cell to produce electricity. Tank is stored way back in the car. Fuel cell is in the front. It's far away. If there is an accident and the hydrogen leaks, it cannot burn because there is no combustion. That clear? It's a chemical process that producing electricity. So there is no chance of explosion. That question was raised in 2014 when we were designing all these things. Does that answer your question?
Sir, in the presentation you told if the accident happens with the hydrogen car. Yes, sir. Sir, then the impact will definitely be creating some heat energy then, sir.
But that tank is sitting in the back of the car.
Sir,
And the fuel cell is in the front of the car.
Sir, we have not any knowledge of the accident, how the accident will happen, sir. It will be happening in any direction.
That's very true. Very true. Okay. Any direction,
Sir,
yes.
Sir, if the collision happens, then the heat energy will be definitely there, sir. If it combines with the hydrogen energy, then there will be going to be huge blast, sir.
Hold on. If there is an accident and there is a spark.
Yes.
By the time accident happens, tank has to rupture and there has to be a spark to explode.
Okay, sir.
The spark will happen before the tank ruptures. Sparks are instant. Follow me? The fuel cell is a chemical process, produce electricity. There is no burning involved. And fuels are located in the front like a hood in the car. The tanks are in the back of the car. Suppose there is an accident and the amount of hydrogen coming to the fuel cell is very, very minuscule. It's like a small pipe that brings the hydrogen to the fuel cell. Okay? It's a very small amount. It cannot explode. Small amount of hydrogen does not explode. Just like we turn a gas on in the house, it's a very small. It cannot explode. It only burns. Or you can smell that gas. You follow me? Suppose I have an oven. If I turn it on and does not spark, it does not open, you will smell the gas. But you might smell the hydrogen. I don't know if hydrogen smells or not. They might put a smell in it. But there cannot be explosion. The explosion only happens if you burst the tank and then there is a spark at the same time. But suppose if somebody hits you from the back, there will be a hitting in the back, spark will happen first. By the time tank bursts, if there is no spark, there cannot be an explosion. Hydrogen will simply evaporate in the air because it's so light.
Okay, sir.
We discussed all these issues when the hydrogen economy was developed at that time.
Yes, sir. Sir, is there up to date? Is there any cases that which are happening that the cars with hydrogen are collided and there is no blast, sir?
I have not seen, but you can Google search it. If there are any explosion, you will find it. Okay.
Okay.
But imagine on the other hand, you have a petroleum car. The tank is in the back, engine is in the front. How many times accident happen? How many car explodes?
Sir,
I'm asking you the question. How many times you see the explosion because of accident? There might be some, maybe 1 in 100,000. I think that happens.
Yes, sir.
So it's a very similar situation. In fact, in this case, it's a less likely because spark has to happen same time when the hydrogen tank burst. And hydrogen tank is made so solid and so heavy, it may not even burst with the accident, depending on how bad the accident is. But spark will happen way before the tank bursts, even if it does burst. That we have thought about, but I have not heard or not researched, but you can research that online. It should not be that difficult. if there are any hydrogen explosion in hydrogen cars. It should be simple Google search.
There is any other question, sir? Sir, if you told this hydrogen is stored with some material that is very solid enough to store the hydrogen.
Yes, there are.
Sir, the car, if the person brought the car and he is keeping it for a very long time, sir, then that storage will be depleting over the year, or it will be remaining the same?
No, that will not be depleting. That's the whole thing. That material absorbs and it keeps it. And there are ways to get the hydrogen out. But that method is kind of obsolete. It's not being used. Okay. These are theoretical things.
Okay, sir.
In a real life, you don't use a store in a solid material and use that in a car. It doesn't work like that. Okay. There are hydrogen tanks, heavily designed, very thick walls. And the only thing is the volume of that, the tank has to be a little bigger. The volume of that compressed hydrogen will be very big. That's all. 4 times bigger than the regular compressed air. Just keep that in mind.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Now I'd like to participants to not to ask any more questions or to stop the interactive sessions over here, as we'll share the slide of Mr. Darshan Goswami via email. So you will get in the front end of the slide, you will be getting the email IDs of Mr. Darshan Goswami, and automatically you get connected with him, and you can ask further your questions what are left with you.
Let people enjoy the knowledge thoroughly. Let them use this knowledge, and I can provide you all the that are referred in this presentation, and you can post that if you wish. If you wish.
So Roger that, sir. It will be done, sir. It will be done.
Okay, good.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Darshan Goswami, for your brilliant presentation for today's session. Thank you very much, and good night to everyone.